Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Israeli air raids pound Lebanon as Hezbollah vows revenge for device blasts. US-UK urge restraint. US stocks surge to record high close on euphoria over Fed rate cut. President Biden says lower borrowing costs will support economic growth. European Union pledges billions in swift aid for flood-stricken areas of Central Europe, even as north of Italy is hit by the tail end of Storm Boris. India ranks third in global cross-border capital destinations for development sites. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend National PM Vishwakarma program in Wardha in Maharashtra to also lay the foundation stone of PM Mitra Park in Amravati. Israel has intensified attacks on southern Lebanon, launching dozens of air raids amid fears of a wider escalation in the region. The Israeli army said airstrikes hit hundreds of rocket launcher barrels ready to be fired towards Israel, as well as approximately 100 launchers and additional terrorist infrastructure sites. In a statement, the army also added that the Israel Defense Forces will continue to operate to degrade the Hezbollah terrorist organization's infrastructure and capabilities in order to defend the state of Israel. The intensified attacks come as Hezbollah chief on Thursday said that exploding device attacks across Lebanon crossed all red lines. In a televised address after 2 days of attacks targeting communication devices, Hassan Nasrallah pledged to keep up their fight against Israel until its nearly 12-month conflict on the Gaza Strip ends. The Lebanese group's leader reiterated the only path to bring calm to the region is for Israel to also halt its assaults on the occupied West Bank. Thousands of people have been injured and 37 have been killed, including children, in the communication attacks. Meanwhile, the United States and United Kingdom expressed deep concern over rising tensions and civilian casualties in Lebanon and called for restraint after thousands of Hezbollah communication devices exploded. Amid the calls for restraint, Israeli warplanes carried out their most intense strikes on South Lebanon in nearly a year of war late on Thursday, Lebanese security sources said. The White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre in a briefing said a diplomatic solution was achievable and urgent, while British Foreign Secretary David Lammy called for an immediate ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon's Hezbollah.
We are concerned about the tension and afraid and concerned about potential escalation. We have said that in the Middle East. We've been very clear. And we've also said that the way to move forward is diplomatic resolution. We think it is achievable. Obviously, it is urgent. And so that's what we're going to continue to do, having those diplomatic conversations. Diplomacy is key here when we talk about potential escalation, which we do not want to see. We do not want to see. And so we're going to continue to work towards that.
Calling for an immediate ceasefire from both sides so that we can get to that settlement, that political settlement that's required.
The United Nations Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting on Friday over the pager blasts in Lebanon targeting the terrorist group Hezbollah. Slovenia's UN ambassador Samuel Zogar, president of the 15-member Council for September, said that the meeting was requested by Algeria on behalf of the Arab states. Earlier, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that the pager blasts targeting Hezbollah indicate a serious risk of a dramatic escalation in Lebanon, and everything must be done to avoid that escalation. Shifting focus to Russia-Ukraine conflict now, the European Parliament has passed a non-binding resolution urging EU member states to allow Ukraine to use Western supplies weapons to strike military targets inside Russia. The resolution, adopted with 425 votes in favor, calls for lifting restrictions, arguing that current limits leave Ukraine vulnerable to Russian attacks. Kyiv has also sought long permission to target Russian air bases involved in bombarding Ukraine. Moscow swiftly condemned the vote, with Duma Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin warning that it could escalate into a nuclear war, threatening swift missile strikes on European cities like Strasbourg. Ukraine, however, hailed the resolution as a bold step, with Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiga praising Europe's decisiveness and leadership in supporting Ukraine's self-defense against Russia's relentless assault. And Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov vowed that Moscow will defend its Arctic interests both diplomatically and militarily. Lavrov condemned increasing US and NATO military exercises in the Arctic, warning that Russia is prepared to respond with military and technical measures. His comments come as tensions rise following a new Pentagon strategy on the Arctic released in July, which highlighted Russia's expanded activities in the region. The US report noted Russia's reopening of hundreds of Soviet-era military bases and growing cooperation with China on Arctic minerals and shipping routes. Lavrov's remarks underscore Moscow's resolve to counter what it sees as a Western push to dominate the strategically crucial Arctic region. Russian forces launched a wave of airstrikes on Ukraine's Sumy region on Thursday, targeting a geriatric center and crippling the energy sector. A guided bomb struck a 5-storied building in Sumy, killing 1 and injuring 12. The UN condemned the attacks on Ukraine's power grid, suggesting that they likely violated humanitarian law. The International Energy Agency warned that Ukraine could face a critical electricity shortage this winter, with supply potentially falling short by a third. Repeated strikes on Sumy's energy infrastructure have forced authorities to rely on backup systems. In response, the EU is dismantling a Lithuanian power plant to be rebuilt in Ukraine and boosting electricity exports. Moscow has relentlessly targeted Sumy near the Kursk region, where Ukraine claims significant territorial gains. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced a significant blow to the Russian forces, revealing that Ukrainian troops have weakened Russia's ability to launch offensives in the contested Donetsk region. In his nightly address, Zelensky credited Ukraine's recent incursion into Russia's southern Kursk region, launched last month, for forcing Moscow to redirect 40,000 soldiers to the area. This strategic move has relieved pressure on the Eastern Front, where the war has raged for over 2.5 years. Zelensky emphasized that this shift marks a key development in Ukraine's ongoing efforts to repel Russian attacks, signaling a crucial advantage in the conflict.
The Ukrainian Defense Forces managed to diminish the occupiers' assault potential in Donetsk region. The situation remains critically difficult. Tough battles every day. Kurahov direction Pokrok's. But we do our utmost for the resilience of our battle brigades.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is set to visit the US next week, meeting President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, and plans to see former President Donald Trump. With the upcoming US presidential election looming, Zelensky aims to secure crucial support for Ukraine's defense against Russia. He plans to present his victory plan to end the war during talks with Biden and Harris on September 26th. Biden emphasized America's unwavering commitment to Ukraine's freedom and independence. Also, concerns grow over Trump's potential impact on US support for Kyiv. Zelensky is also pushing the Biden administration to allow Ukraine to use long-range Western weapons against Russia. Meanwhile, the U.S. congressional leaders and President Joe Biden's administration are nearing an agreement to extend $6 billion in military aid for Ukraine that is due to expire this month, sources revealed. With bipartisan support, the plan aims to include the extension of the Presidential Drawdown Authority, that is PDA, in a continuing resolution, an emergency spending bill needed to prevent a government shutdown by September 30th. This decision comes as Russia intensifies attacks on Ukraine's energy grid ahead of the winter. The urgency increased after the House of Representatives failed to pass a Republican-backed funding bill, which omitted the Ukraine aid extension. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced that the Senate is working on its own spending bill, likely to include the crucial one-year extension for Ukraine aid. As the US presidential elections draw near, both rival parties are intensifying efforts to enhance and consolidate their vote bases among various communities. Up next, we get to you a report by DD India's Akhilesh Suman on how communities are playing vital in the minds of the contestants.
On Thursday, former US President Donald Trump reached out to the Jewish community, emphasizing the commitment to Israel's security. Trump stated that to safeguard Israel, his return to White House is essential. He urged Jewish Americans to vote for him during a unique gathering in Washington, D.C., centered on the theme, Fighting Anti-Semitism in America.
But if we don't win this election, Israel, in my opinion, within a period of 2 to 3 years will cease to exist. It's going to be wiped out. That's what's going to happen.
The Jewish Americans, numbering nearly 15 million and making up around 4.5% of the US population, has traditionally supported the Democrats and Republicans party in a 60-40 ratio. Interestingly, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is Jewish. Seeking to sway more Jewish voters, Trump claimed that Democrats are detrimental to both Israel and Jewish interests, singling out Democratic candidate Kamala Harris as the worst.
In my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with a loss if I'm at 40%. If I'm at 4%, think of it, that means 60% are voting for Kamala, who in particular is a bad Democrat. The Democrats are bad to Israel, very bad.
African Americans, who comprise about 12.1% of the US population, are another key demographic. The voter rights organization Black Votes Matter launched a campaign on Thursday to encourage black voter registration ahead of Georgia's October 7 deadline. The campaign, dubbed We Fight Back Tour, kicked off with a stop at Cross Keys High School in Atlanta. The goal is not just to register voters but also boost turnout among black communities.
And we want to be able to raise those issues with them and connect that back to the ballot. Who pulls the lever of power? Not just at the top of the ticket, but at the bottom of the ticket in your local elections.
For Democratic candidate Kamala Harris, both black and Jewish voters are critical, as these groups have historically leaned Democratic. On Thursday, Harris made a symbolic gesture to both communities, hosting a star-studded rally featuring talk show icon Oprah Winfrey and other celebrities. The event aimed to galvanize support from Jewish and black voters alike. Harris herself has black descent and Jewish husband. As Trump seeks to attract new voters, Harris's focus is on consolidating and expanding her base other than chasing new grounds. With the race tightening, both candidates are pulling out all stops. Akhilesh Suman reporting for DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live. Massive floods across Central Europe threatened areas, raising concerns among residents and leaders. The floods and mudslides have mostly affected the regions like Italy, Poland and Hungary and have claimed 24 lives so far. The situation prompted European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to pledge billions of euros in aid for Central European countries. Here's a report by Kajal.
Devastating floods have swept through Central Europe, claiming at least 24 lives and destroying numerous homes. The storm system that wreaked havoc across Central Europe brought devastating floods to the northern Italian region of Emilia-Romagna for the second year in a row. Floods and mudslides have also affected neighboring regions of Tuscany and Marche. In Hungary, towns were dealing with rising Danube River as the water levels are expected to rise on Saturday. People of Budapest raced to build defences. The Margaret Island has been closed. Meanwhile, the residents in Polish city of Wrocław were seen working to ensure that their city remains largely untouched by floodwaters. Social media platforms were used to inform locals about flood threat. As a result, many are now offering tools, resources and transportation. The worsening flood situation has prompted European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen to take remedial action. She has pledged billions of euros in aid for Central European countries fighting surging water levels.
Normally, cohesion fund goes with co-financing from the member states. Here we say it's 100% European money, no co-financing. These are extraordinary times, and extraordinary times need extraordinary measures. At first sight, 10 billion euros are possible to mobilize from the cohesion funds for the countries that are affected. This is an emergency reaction now. Thank you very much again for the fast convening of this group. And of course, we stand by your side also in the months and years to come when it is about recovery and repair from the disaster.
The unprecedented disaster has left communities struggling to cope with the aftermath as the rescue efforts continue. Some areas are still under threat from rising waters. Bureau Report, DD India.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be on a 3-day visit to the United States of America from 21st to 23rd of September. During the visit, he would join world leaders at the upcoming Quad Summit, which is expected to address pressing global issues, including the situation in Ukraine. Prime Minister will also address the UN Summit for the Future at the UN headquarters in New York, for which preparations are underway. DD India's correspondent Shubhendu Ghosh visited New York University campus to track the expectations of the new generation from the summit and their take on emerging technologies. Here's more.
Summit of the Future is taking place at the United Nations in New York. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing this summit. I have with me what looks like a bright future. Well, I'm talking about young students, Indian and American, at the prestigious New York University. And this red building that you see behind us, this imposing structure, is the Bob's Library, an iconic structure that is center of the academic and intellectual life of the students here. I have with me Alvina and her friends who are here to talk with us. Alvina, first, not very far from here at the United Nations headquarters, Summit of the Future is going to be deliberating on sustainable tomorrow. What are your thoughts on what this summit is going to be deliberating on, and what kind of action-oriented agenda would you like to see?
I would say, obviously, we, the millennials or the Gen Z, are really looking forward to leave a better planet for our next generations. And what we would hope is, obviously, all the global leaders and all the stakeholders to take some actionable insights to make sure that we are moving towards a more sustainable future for us.
In response to your question, I think the summit does bring a lot of hope for the future. In the past, a lot of summits that have occurred, I feel like, have not really achieved the goals that they have set. I'm hoping that this one will be more action-driven and really will solve all the problems that they have identified in previous summits.
All right.
Hi, I think the summit is mainly focusing on tackling the environmental issues, which is actually the need of the hour, because India has been progressing in every other domain, especially under the current government.
All right. Another aspect of the Summit of the Future is the manner in which new emerging technologies are going to be looked at, are going to be adapted by different nations. AI is something that has been making a lot of buzz around the world.
As you talked about AI, so AI is one of the fastest growing technologies right now. And with the growth of AI, the growth of semiconductor industries has been massive. And with the recent success of the Semicon meeting in India, where everyone around the world came to India to promote the semiconductor industry and lead to the growth of AI, I'm pretty hopeful about it.
As an AI architect myself, I've seen that AI plays a really big role in a lot of industries, healthcare, any type of engineering, healthcare, AI plays a big role. So, as the name suggests, Summit of the Future, and it gives us a glimpse of the future.
I strongly feel that technological advancement is a value that is shared by both India and the United States. And Prime Minister in his speeches also mentions about sustainable development, technological advancement, and talks about Viksit Bharat.
All right, these were young, bright students, Indian and American, at the New York University, talking about the Summit of the Future and the potential of India-United States ties. With camera person Sumit Nodiyal, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in New York.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is visiting Wardha in Maharashtra and participating in the national PM Vishwakarma program, marking 1 year of progress under PM Vishwakarma scheme. During the program, Prime Minister will release certificates and loans to PM Vishwakarma beneficiaries. The scheme provides collateral-free credit, skill training, modern tools, incentives for digital transactions and market linkage support to artisans in 18 trades. To enhance the skills of the artisans, the PM Vishwakarma scheme was launched last year, and the Prime Minister is visiting Wardha in Maharashtra to participate in the completion of 1 year celebration of the PM Vishwakarma program and also evaluate the progress that has been made under the scheme. India becomes third largest destination for global cross-border capital targeting land and development sites, according to the Collier's Global Capital Flows report for 2024. In the first half of 2024, foreign investment accounted for 73% of total inflows into India's real estate sector. India's investments in industrial assets alone surged fivefold as compared to last year, underscoring the growing global confidence in India's infrastructure and supply chain capabilities. The report highlights that India attracted to $3.5 billion in the inflows during the first half of this year, with 70% of the investments directed towards ready assets. While the US Federal Reserve is expected to slash interest rates, buoyed world markets, it also set a political slugfest in the US, with Biden administration hailing the move, while the Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump calling it a political move.
The US Federal Reserve on Wednesday kicked off what is expected to be a series of interest rate cuts with an unusually large half percentage point reduction. The move set in motion a chain of statements and reactions from global markets and the US politicians alike. US President Joe Biden said that the Fed lowering interest rates is a signal that the United States has entered a new phase of recovery, though stressing that there remains more work to be done.
At its peak, as you all know, inflation was 9.1% in the United States. Today, it is much closer to 2%. It doesn't mean our work is done. Far from it. Far from it. No one should confuse why I'm here. I'm not here to take a victory lap. I'm not here to say a job well done. I'm not here to say we don't have a hell of a lot more work to do. We do have more work to do. But what I am here to speak about is how far we come, how we got here, and most importantly, the foundation that I believe built for a more prosperous and equitable future in America. So let's be clear. The Fed lowering interest rates isn't a declaration of victory. It's a declaration of progress. It's a signal we've entered a new phase of our economy and our recovery.
Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump termed the decision to cut interest rates by as much as half a percentage point a political move. The allegations of any pressure on Federal Reserve were outrightly rejected by the Biden administration. White House economic advisor reiterated that US President Joe Biden has never spoken to Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell about interest rates. Biden had said earlier on Thursday that he had not spoken to Powell since becoming president.
Sure, the president was saying that he has not spoken to Chair Powell about interest rates. He did not pressure Powell and has never done so. And in fact, in the speech today, that was in the section about Fed independence and about the importance of respecting and honoring that independence. It's obviously a stark contrast with our predecessor. Never has the president spoken to Chair Powell about interest rates as president. Never has he pressured him.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell also stressed the same after announcing the rate reduction on Wednesday. He said that the Fed is not serving any politician, any cause, or any issue.
We do our work to serve all Americans. We're not serving any politician, any political figure, any cause, any issue, nothing. It's just maximum employment and price stability on behalf of all Americans. And that's how the other central banks are set up too. It's a good institutional arrangement, which has been good for the public. And I hope and strongly believe that it will, continue.
Politics apart, markets worldwide welcomed the move with surging stocks. The S&P 500 index surged to a record high on Thursday. The blue chip Dow Jones Industrial Average also registered a record closing high, ending the session above 42,000 for the first time. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.